Welcome back. In the last video, we created the contact table and we have also provided a name as a string, column name as a field value. So we have also users table, and one thing you can notice here is created at and updated at. So these are the timestamps, and these are provided by Laravel when you might a migration. Okay, so these are the default things that comes with Laravel. So actually these things are coming from these timestamps. So if you see the users migration, here we have the timestamps. So now let's say you want to modify this migration file, you want to have more field, then yes, you can do this. So simply you have to provide the column you want to have in your database. So let's say I want to have the username. Okay, so and I have to provide the column type, so it will be the string. Okay, so this is the username, and since this is already available in our database, and if you try to migrate now, this won't work. So PHP antigen migrate, so it has not detected any changes. So to make this work, there are two things. One is just open your file, you can just rename the timestamp. So instead of this, so you can just do something like this. Instead of this 00, just make it 1, or just change the timestamp, and again come here and write PHP antigen migrate, then it will work perfectly. Otherwise you can also write something like this: PHP antigen migrate phrase. So this will roll back all the tables, it will delete all the table and re-migrate again, and now you should have the changes. So now we have a username, and this is the string value. As you can see, this is the string, here is the string, this is the string value, it takes as a string value. Okay, and now let's go to again here. Now I'll introduce with some of the most common PHP antigen command. So most of the time we'll be using the artisan command. So if you type PHP artisan, it will show you all the commands. So the most popular command are the make controller and make model, which you will be using to make the controller and model. So for example, as you can see here, if you write a PHP artisan make controller, it will create a new controller class. Similarly, if you write a PHP artisan make mail, it will create a mail class. So later on in the video, we'll create the mail class, we'll also create this middleware, we'll create a model, we'll create a migration. Okay, so these are the very useful classes. So now let's do a simple stuff. So clear, and let's make one controller. So PHP artisan make, and you have to give a controller after make controller, and then you can give the name of your controller. So I'll give the contact controller. So it will create a contact controller, and as you know that we have already created a contact model, so we have the contact model here. So contact model, so these models are always singular and tables name are always plural. So as you can see, this is always plural contacts. Okay, so now Laravel will automatically detect that if the table model name is contact, then this will represent the contacts table. Okay, since we have the same name here. Now let's go here and let's do something. So let's go to the contact controller. We have a contact controller. Let's go to the route. So we'll be using route a lot of times, so we'll be using the web.route. So we'll go the routes web, and we'll make one basic route. Okay, so let's make the basic route. So route get, and here we'll write a test again, and let's say we write a contact, contact contact, and we want to use the contact controller which we have created, and then we'll give array something like this, and then we'll write contact controller, and we'll give class, and then we'll give comma, and we'll write the name of method that we want to use. So I want to make method name as an index. So now I have to go to the contact controller and make the name index method name. Before that, I have to import this namespace. So on the top of your file web.php, you have to tell where this file is located. So as you can see, my editor has automatically registered this for me. So it's coming from app, http controllers, and contact controller. So you have to import this. Okay, so now let's go to contact controller, which is in app, http controller, and contact controller. So I have to make here now one method, and I'll call this as index. So I'll call this as index, and now what I want to do is I want to get all the data from my contacts table. So let's create some name here. So I'll create one name as John, and I'll want to give some date here, and I'll duplicate this column, and I'll make two records, and I'm going to give this name as a Jane. Now we'll do simple query to get this data, and we'll see this in our browser. So now if we just return something instead of rendering views, we'll see this users. So we are just returning this information users, and let's go to now contact contact. So this is our get route, and here you can see we have the users. Now as I said previously also, we can return a view. To return a view, we just have to do like return view something like this, and then you'll give the folder name or file name, and the view need to be created under resources views folder. So resources views, here all views should be here. Okay, so now let's get the result from our database. So we have the data in contacts table, and we have the contact model, right? So now first thing is we have to import our contact model. So here you have to use a use app models and contacts. So this contact is in the contact model inside the folder called model. So a models and a contact. And now if you want to get this record, we can simply do something like contact and get. So contact get will get all the contact details. Okay, so if you do this, and you can keep this in some variables. So let's say contacts, and let's return this contacts, return contact, and if you go in check in a browser, you'll see this type of data. Now if you want to get the name, yes, you have to loop this data again. So let's loop this for each contacts as contact, open close, and then here we can just echo the contact name. Let's say the contact and then name. So this is the contact name. Now we should see the contact name. So as you can see, the first is John and the second is Jane. And you can also give a break. So if you do something like this, then I think it will be more clear to view. So now you can see we have John and Jane. Now we can also do this for loop in our view file. So we'll simply return this in our view file. So I'll make a view called contact.blade.php. I'll make the contact folder, and I'll make the index file. Okay, and to pass this variable, you have to use compact, compact, and in compact you can pass this context. Okay, so if you have more than two variables, you can still pass, as you can give comma and you can pass another variable. So let's say if you have users, then you can pass like this. Okay, so you can pass as many variables as you want here. So currently we have only one, so we are only passing here. Now all the data should be available to our index.blade.php, which should be here. Okay, so we will create first contact folder, and within the contact folder we'll make the index.blade.php file, index.blade.php file, and now here should be the contact. So first thing is, let me write as tag and do and let's say list of users, and if you refresh we'll see the list of users. And now since we have the contact variable that fetch all the contact from our database, now we can easily loop and get this. So now here in the blade we have to use a blade syntax. So if it was plain PHP, we would do something like this. We'll open the PHP tag and we'll do something in the PHP tag and we'll write for each users as user, and we'll open and close this, and we'll do something like, let's say user, we're going to get username, we'll do user and name. So we would do something like this, and let's give the break. Okay, so we did this, and if we do this we will still get the context. So something wrong here, so this should be context, not the user, sorry. So context as user, I'll do as a user, since we are passing contact as a variable, so we have to loop context as user and username. So if you refresh this, now this should be fine. So in Blade we usually avoid this type of syntax. We'll not be using PHP tag. So instead of this we'll do something like this. So I'll show you this. So we'll write @ and then we'll write a for each, and then we have to end this for each. We'll write and for each. This is the Blade syntax, and in the for each here we write a context as user, and instead of doing echo to display the name, we'll use the double curly braces. So this is equivalent to echo. So let's make the p tag here and do the echo. So this is the echo. Okay, so now you can do user name and you get the username. So this is same as this one. So I'll remove this one now and I'll use this one. So @ sign, you have to first use @ and when you use the for each you have to use and for each. So you'll get exactly the same result. So this is the Blade syntax. So if you want to use the if statement, so you can use like this, if something like this, let's say $a is greater than $a greater than $b, then so we'll do inif something and we'll display something here with a double curly braces. So this is the if statement. So if you want to run the if else statement, then this will be like this. So if, and then you have to in this if, so you'll have some expression here, and if you want to run the else between this if and else, if and in if, then you have to do else something like this, and you write this. If something is true, so this information. If something is true, so this information, right? And if something is false, then so this information. So this is how Blade works. Okay, so we'll try to avoid the PHP tag when we write anything in the Blade. So we just want to use the Blade template, and you can use any HTML tag here. So that's all, guys. And one more thing I like to show you before wrapping up this video. So let's get this, undo this, and let's get the result back. Okay, so this was our result and we still have this result. So now let's add one user, okay, before we wrap up this video. So to add one user, again, let's say I want to make another route. So I want to show you now post route. So this will be the post route. I'll make this as post, and I'll make this as a contact store, and I'll name this method name as a store. So my name, my method name is store, and my URL is contact/store. And I have to make now store method. So this index method was responsible for rendering the view and getting the data from database. Now this method will be responsible for storing the data. So public function store, and then here we want to store the data. So usually the data comes through the form, so we'll get all the data from the form, but in this video we are not going to make the form, so we just see how this works here. We'll just do hardcore. So first is to call the contact and scope position operator colon, and there is a create method in Laravel, so we can use a create method and we can create this record. So what we want to create is, we have a column called, let's see, the column called in the contact is the name, so column called name. So we'll just write a name and then we'll do something like this and give this. So we'll give name as a debit. So this is the name as debit, and we need to provide this within the array. So this should be the array. And now if we hit this data through the form, then it would create the record. But since we are not using form, and since our method is a post, we cannot use this. So to make this work, let's make this get, so that we can visit to this space, and we'll get one more error which I'll show you. Let's go to this. It's not error, but this record won't be saved into database, and I'll explain why it is. So if we go to the contact slash store, we are using get for now. Sorry, contact slash store, and it says, oh sorry, it should be contact slash store. Okay, it says that name, add the name to the field property to all of the mass assignment. So whenever you create any records, just you have to go to your model and you have to add this particular column into your fillable array. So let's go here, and here you have to make the fillable array. So if you open the default one, so as you can see here, we have a fillable array. So we have to have same thing, fillable array. So let's go here and make the fillable array. I have copied the same thing, and let's say you want to fill a name column. So you have a name column you want to fill, so you have to register here. You don't have to register created at update at an ID, but all the field, let's say you have a name, you have a username, email, whatever you have to register here, so that it get inserted into our database. Now if we refresh this, now everything looks fine, and if you go here, now we have another name. Okay, that's great. Now one more time, let's do debit 1 2 3, and once this is done, you can just write a return back. If you want to return back, you can just write return back, so it will return you back. It will create and return back. So let's go again here. Sorry, let's go to the contact, and I'll do contact store, and it created the record and we got the new record. So this was some basic stuff, guys. I hope you like this video, and from the next video we'll start our project.